And just people who just love history, welcome to another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History, or This Day in African American Baseball History. We like to call it both of those names. And in case you don't know who I am, my name is Phil Dixon, and I come on pretty regularly now with an edition of This Day in Black Baseball History, where I give an historic fact that happened on this day. Of course, today is October 20th, 2025, but we're going to go back through maybe a century of baseball, and I tell you a few things that happened, and I give you some commentary about things I've learned from my more than 45 years of being an African American baseball historian and chronicling this history for the next generation and beyond. So I want to jump right in here right now, and if you come and stay for a moment or two, that's fine. Just be sure I'm going for, be sure to support me. I'm going for 300 subscribers. I'm trying to get there by the end of October, October 31, Halloween. If I can get to 300 subscribers, I'm moving in the right direction. And so I'm picking up subscribers every day and just talking about this great American pastime that African Americans played a major role in making the game lovable for everybody. And of course, when I came along and reading books on baseball, this is information that was omitted from the books. Nobody was writing about it. You had to dig in newspapers, or as I did, I went out and did a lot of interviews and talked to all kinds of people about this history and was able to make some big contributions to it. So we're about 2 minutes, so let's jump right in here because I've got lots of information that I want to share with you tonight. So if you're just joining or you're just coming in, hit a like or something. Let me know you're out there, all right? I don't know who's listening unless you let me know you're listening. All right then. So let's go. Let's start on October 20th, 1912. Saying a game played in Newark, New Jersey. The Brooklyn Royal Giants disposed of the Ironside FC team at Parkway Oval by an 8-5 score. And there's a guy named Hollick Caddy of the Boston Red Sox threw out the first pitch. And when Ironside started to hit, Johnny Pugh, P-U-G-H, he was a pitcher, also played infield. The starting pitcher, Frank Wickware, came on to halt the scoring. And catching that day was Bradley, his battery mate. And of course, they had been battery mates over at the 1910 Chicago Leland Giants. And Bradley went to Cuba with Ruth Foster in the fall of 1910. So what do I want to talk about in this game? First of all, it gives me another opportunity to talk about Frank Wickware, who Walter Johnson thought was the greatest pitcher of all time. And he said he didn't want to bring shame to Christy Mathewson, but he liked Frank Wickware. And if you notice, Walter Johnson appears in quite a few games during the month of October. And these are exhibition games. I've mentioned his name quite a bit here since October 1st in various lives that I've been doing. So that is Frank Wickware. Frank Wickware, I just passed through his town. I was on my way to, where was I going? I was on my way to Pittsburgh, Kansas, and right around Fort Scott, Kansas. That's his hometown, Girard, Kansas, and you kind of see that on the freeway when you're going down 69 highway. I don't know if you travel in that part of the country, but yeah, so we go down through there often and do road trips and present. I was speaking at Pittsburgh this time, but I've also presented in Frank Wickware's hometown, Girard, small town, at the Carnegie Library, and I've presented at Fort Scott a number of times at the Gordon Park Library, as well as bookstores and things like that. So I get around. I would probably around. I paid my dues in 45 years. And I always like to say, in 45 years, thousands of appearances, I've only been late one time. One time in 45 years. So that's some kind of record, guys. So I'm pretty proud of that, as well as just going to a lot of different places. So, but this is for real for me. I don't know why other people work on this history, but for me, it is part of my heritage. It's part of my African American culture to make sure that this history is not lost. So I'm out here just doing my thing. All right. So that is the story on Frank Wickware. All right. So we're going to go to another one. Let's go to another one right quick. October 20th, 1917. Okay. Although supported by Cyclone Joe Williams, Louis Santop, and Dick Lundy, Hilldale lost. That's Hilldale, that's the Darby Daisies out of Darby, Pennsylvania. Lost a 10-4 game to Connie Mack's All-Americans. And Joe Bush tossed a 6-hitter, with Santop getting 2 of the hits and William getting 2 hits. And of course, the game has been, well, actually, we have never been able to locate how many strikeouts Joe Williams had that day, but we noticed that his catcher, Santop, if you get a strikeout, the catcher gets a putout. And of course, I noticed that Santop had 6 putouts. So we don't know the strikeouts, but we know that he had at least 6 that day. All right, so that is the story. So I'm going to come back to this Hilldale team in 1917 because there's something else I want to add to that. Also, let's see. What else? Let's see. Who do I want to say was in that? Okay. Yep. Okay. So Williams fanned Amos Strunk, Strunk, and Wally Shane, but no record of his total strikeouts in the game. Okay. So we do know that he struck out 2 of the Connie Mack's All-Stars. Now, if you know who Connie Mack is, he was the owner of the Philadelphia Athletics. So what was Connie Mack doing out here playing Hilldale? Now, what's interesting is Hilldale probably only played about 45 games that year. But even at that 45 games, they brought in just a couple more players. Hey, they're challenging the Philadelphia Athletics. I'm telling you, the talent pool of African-American athletes in baseball around, say, from 1900 to 1920 was incredible. And there were lots of good players. And the good players were plentiful. Great players were also in abundance. So we're just talking about a game that Black America loved at that particular time. And that's what every community played. And they could support a team. So Connie Mack knew that. And so he brought his team over to Darby, Pennsylvania to play this black team and almost got beat. So, right? And you thought maybe if you bring in Joe Williams, they were in trouble. And they usually were when Joe Williams came along. So anyway, that is it. So Shag, let's see. Oh, I did see a note in here because it was in the article. It said that Shang, Schang, he actually, let me go tell him about this guy, because this guy is unique, and a lot of people don't know this story as well. September 8, 1916, Shang homered from both sides of the plate at Philadelphia Shibe Park. And as far as we know, he was the first person to do that in the American National League. Now, it might have been some other guys in black baseball, but so far I haven't been able to identify him. Now, what's interesting is nobody saw this. Now, keep in mind, it's at Shibe Park. That's where the athletics play, right? But that day, there was only 23 to 25 people at the game. Now, just imagine this, guys. With all the things they told us about, all the wonderful things happening in the American National League, why do you have 23 to 25 people at a game? I know that athletics didn't have that much that year, and it's in September, but you have 23 to 25 people at a game. Now, believe me, when I was growing up, if you had told me that 23, 25 people showed up, say at the Kansas City Royals, where I started going, or even the Kansas City A's, who were here right when I started following baseball, and their attendance wasn't that great, but 23 to 25 people? See, this is the history that they don't share with us. You got to dig for this. Major League Baseball is what they were calling it, but it wasn't always Major League. It wasn't always Major League. And I can show you some wonderful things to prove that. And I can show you some things that were actually like the Chicago American Giants. I wrote about this in a book. My book, The Chicago Lillian Giants, the 1910 Chicago Lillian Giants, is part of my Great Team series, that their outfield they had that year, Pete Hill, Frank Duncan, and Andrew Payne, was far better than the outfield the White Sox had. But Coming down through history, everybody talks about the White Sox, and they weren't talking about the Leland Giants. That left me something to do. And as a young person starting in 1980, I've been talking about it ever since. So I take this very seriously and I keep talking about it. I'm going to keep on talking about it. But can you imagine this? A major league game with 25 people? Can you imagine that? It actually happened. If you don't believe me, go look it up. Just go and look up Shane, Schang, and then look for the game where he hit home runs from the left and the side and the right in one game, and you'll see that I'm not making this up. All right. I love baseball. I love all the aspects of it, and I'm always looking for unique things to talk about. So that gives me something to talk about. 23. Okay. Coming from behind in inning 8, the St. Louis Stars defeated Carl Mills. I guess it's Milliken's Whiz Bangs 13-12 at Denver's Merchant Park. Otto Ray homered and Connie Day posted 4 hits for the winners. Okay, I can break this one down too. If Denver got a lot of games, and here's the reason why. Denver, if back in, say you're traveling out to California, which is where they were headed to California. And I used to be a musician. It was the same way with music too. But once you left Kansas City, the next big audience going west is going to be Denver. And after Denver, you know, Vegas wasn't there going very well at that time, Las Vegas. So the next place is California, Los Angeles, or so through there. So Denver picked up a lot of teams because they're going to stop there and then they're going to go all the way to California because there's nothing in between that's going to attract black teams for the most part, or black musicians for the most part. So here around Kansas City, when we played in Kansas City, we work our way out, to Colorado. We play in Denver. Matter of fact, I'm going to call the name of the place that a lot of bands played in the 70s in Denver. I'm going to call it in a minute. But after then, you got to jump all the way over. So Denver was the benefit of a lot of good history. So they're coming through here. They play in Denver. And Otto Ray was a catcher, caught for the Kansas City Monarchs. Actually, he's buried not too far from where I live. He was a veteran in World War I, and he is buried in the National Cemetery down at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. And he was a great player. He ended up being a detective for the Kansas City, Missouri police force. And, hey, guys, when he first signed on, believe it or not, you could be a police officer, detective, but you couldn't arrest white people. You could only arrest black people. Isn't that something? Man, welcome to America. There's some crazy stuff that's gone on in America. You can see a white guy breaking the law, but you couldn't arrest him because you already hired to police black people. So that was Otto Ray, police officer. And the first time I heard about Connie Day was from Dink Martha. Dink Martha played Winter League baseball with Connie Day. Connie Day was from Indianapolis, so he's from Indiana, had played with the ABCs and a few other teams. He was an infielder, so yeah. And by the way, Otto Ray was from Lexington, Missouri. I've presented there before, and I've presented it in Indianapolis a couple of times. Actually, there was a TV show on PBS called History Detective. I don't know if you remember History Detective, that was on PBS. And we were filming a segment. They wanted me to come in and do something related to a Satchel Paige baseball. And one thing I remember, this is supposed to be like reality TV, that kind of thing. So they interviewed me, and so I told them some things, and they took my words and made a script out of my words. So it wasn't like they made the script and gave it to me. They actually took my own words and made a script. It was pretty clever. So I went there, and I was supposed to meet the guy at the Historical Society. So we get to the Historical Society, and so he was supposed to come in the door. They have the camera rolling, and I'm coming down the steps. So this is reality TV, right? So the cameras are rolling. He walks in. I walk down the steps, and they said, "Great, cut." Said, "Let's do it again." Said, "This time we want you to walk in." Said, "We want you to turn a little more toward the camera." He said, "And then pick up your speed a little bit more." So I go back, do that, and he said, "Cut." All right. Okay, that was great, but this time we're going to move the camera on the other side, and we want you to still walk down a little bit faster, but when you get down, we want you to turn to this direction, And you know what? This is what reality TV is supposed to be about. Man, I was acting and didn't even know it. But yeah, that aired on History Detective, and I think it's to Jufu. What was his name? They had a guy. He had an African name, and he was one of the hosts on there. Somebody knows this. Somebody has watched History Detective, and I think he was a college professor. So these are just things that I've been able to do over 45 years, and people probably don't even know that I've done these things. But yeah, appeared on History Detective. Hey, I'm even on a segment of what's it called? What's the one where they bring in the antiques? Antique Roadshow. I'm on a segment of Antique Roadshow, and occasionally I'll go somewhere and people say, "Hey, I saw you on TV today," or I'll get someone online asking me, "Were you on Antique Roadshow?" Because I'm not talking about baseball. I'm talking about a movie poster, and so but some people recognize me from that. So anyway, I got to get on. I got to keep moving, guys. All right. So let's go to October 20th, 1924. The Kansas City Monarchs capture a 5-0 win in Chicago, Illinois, as they defeat Hilldale of Darby, Pennsylvania, with Jose pitching to win the 1924 World Series. Wow. That was Kansas City's first World Series win, 1924. Of course, the great Cuban ball player Jose Mendez captured that victory on a cold day in Chicago, Illinois. Back then, they would move the World Series around. They start in Philadelphia. Maybe they're going to play 10 games. And they, instead of like a World Series now where they're going to go to the home team's park and then to the visiting team's park or whatever, they would move it around. So in 1924, they started the World Series in, I think, Baltimore. They played in Philadelphia. They played in Kansas City, and they finished in Chicago. And they drew pretty good, but the Kansas City Monarchs captured that final game. And I remember talking to George Sweat. George Sweat was roommates with Jose Mendez, and he said that Mendez came and got into bed early that night, and he said that Mendez normally was a night owl, but he got into bed early that night, and of course, Sweat didn't know that they were going to have him pitch the next day. And Ruth Foster kind of requested that he pitch. And Ruth Foster's hunch was right, and Jose Mendez came through, tossed the shutout, and the rest is history. So, yeah, George Sweat's comments on Jose Mendez and his going to bed early and everything, those are valuable information. All right, let's go to 1926. How about this? This one includes Babe Ruth. 1926, pitcher Dick Redding of the Brooklyn Royal Giants defeats the Babe Ruth All-Stars, composed mostly of International League players, by a 3-1 score at Ashbury Park in New Jersey. And 4 times of facing Redding, Ruth doubled twice, struck out, and was thrown out once. The game was witnessed by 10,000 people. Years ago, I remember the old refrain was, these African-American players were great. Too bad nobody saw them. Man, look, it's 10,000 people at this game. 10,000 nobodies. Can you believe that? And guess what? They thought they were talking about black people being nobody. There's a lot of white folks in this audience coming to see Babe Ruth also. So I guess if you went to see a major league game, you were somebody. You went to see a Negro League game or a black team playing, you were a nobody. Well, listen, everybody is somebody, and you got to respect that. And whether you're a baseball fan, but if you're a human being, everybody counts. Everybody counts. Everyone is valuable. Never discount people. So that is some of the things I have for today. Of course, you know, October 20th, 1937, you got Hall of Fame pitcher Juan Marichal was born, and in the Dominican Republic. And then obviously, you know, most people who follow me know that I always close with a coming and a going, all right? So let's go with a coming and a going. Now, coming means that's somebody who's being born, going is somebody who's passed away, all right? So we got some good ones tonight, and I'll just throw it, I'll do this quickly so I won't be on here too long. First of all, Bert Hunter is born in Phoenix, Arizona, October 20th, 1910. Of course, he played for the 1932 Homestead Grays, And well, he played for a number of teams, but I picked him up and got a lot of information on Hunter from Quincy Troop. And they played together in 1932 with the Homestead Grays. And when they got shortened on their money, they decided to come to Kansas City, and J.L. Wilkinson picked him up for the rest of the season. And he picked up a pretty good team that included James Papa Bale, Willie Wales was on that team. Charlie Beverly, he was smoking them in there. Quincy Troop was doing real good. Bertram Hunter was firing the ball. And they were a pretty good team. They didn't lose very often once everybody got together. Curtis Popsicle Harris or Moochie Harris, he could be called different names. Chet Brewer, man, I interviewed half of that team, believe it or not, or either half of that team's family. So that was a great team. Hunter ended up moving to Mexico. I think he passed away in Mexico. He was originally from Phoenix, Arizona, but he went to play in Mexico, and I think he stayed down in the country of Mexico. I think I talked to somebody. I think it was what's his name, Wright. I can't think of his name, out of Nashville, Tennessee. And Wright told me that Hunter had picked up quite a bit of weight in his later years. Okay, so that's Hunter. So let's go. October 20th, 1910. Sammy T. Hughes is born in Louisville, Kentucky. There we go. Got to get that city and state right. Louisville, Kentucky. I'm trying to think who was the greatest ball player to come out of Louisville, Kentucky. I know who the greatest boxer was. That was Muhammad Ali. But yeah, pretty good ball player. Sammy T. Hughes was a great infielder, and he's one that you could actually, if you put his numbers together, you might want to consider him for to get on the list to be maybe enshrined in Cooperstown. Now, I didn't get a chance to interview Sammy T, but his wife was still alive, and she lived in Los Angeles, and I was working on a project and a book. I never wrote the book, but I interviewed her for this concept I had, and never finished that particular book. I probably have about 20 books I started, I haven't finished, but I have finished 10 if you want one of those. But more will be coming, God willing. If I keep living, I'm gonna start writing more and more. All right, so I've been writing through the years, but I want to pick it up now. This is getting serious. I'm not getting any younger. So anyway, Sammy T. Hughes, one of the great all-time players, born in Louisville, Kentucky, died in Los Angeles, California, and that's where his widow was when I talked to her in the early 90s. She lived quite a long time after him. All right, last one for today. This is going. It's someone who passed away. October 20th, 1918. Guy by the name of Norman Triplet died of the influenza in France while serving in the military during World War I. The World War I conflict, is a member of the 803rd Pioneer Infantry. He was born, believe it or not, October 18th, 1892 in Lamont, Pennsylvania, where his family is pretty much most of the town. And there is a there was, I couldn't find any reference to it now, but there was a Norman Triplet post, VFW post, 451 in his hometown. And of course, he lived at 1514 Willow Avenue. What's interesting about this is in 1917, when Hilldale played against, I guess, who was they playing against? Connie Mack's All-Stars. That is the team he's on. So I get a chance to talk about the team he's on, and then also just so happens that he passed away on that same date, years earlier. So the game against Hilldale was October 20th, and of course he dies October 20th. Excuse me. The game against Connie Mack's All-Stars is October 20th, 1917. He dies October 20th, 1918. Made the great sacrifice for our country. And we can't forget these veterans who made America stand for what it ought to be, even though it wasn't what it should have been. But they were willing to sacrifice their life so that we can have a better quality of life today. And that's why I'm out here right now. And that's why I will stand for always for anything that keeps equality going in this country. So last thing I do want to mention, another guy, whenever I think about sacrifices in World War I, I always think about Pearl Webster. They called him Pearl Specs. Webster. The reason they called him Specs because he was a light guy and he had freckles. And so his nickname was Specs Webster. So anyway, guys, that does it for me tonight. We got a playoff game coming up, game 7 here. So somebody knows what that is. I'm not going to go into it much, but that's going to be good. And then, of course, you know, you got Monday Night Football too. So if you're a sports fan, there's lots for you tonight. But I wanted to give you a little bit here. If you like what I'm doing, guys, I appreciate your support. I'm new to this, about 3 months. I'm not new to history, but I'm new to this YouTube thing, right? I'm trying to get to my 1,000 subscribers, but first I want to get to that 300 number by the end of October. So if you like what I'm doing, hit that bell and subscribe, and then share the broadcast if you know somebody, or tell somebody about me, because I'm going to bring you history like you never had it before from someone who didn't read it in a book, someone who actually lived this history and met these people, right? And I always tell people, I don't have a job. I don't get paid by any organization, any institution. I have a passion. So you can't fire me, you can't hire me, but you can be my friend and follow me. Thank you, guys. You have a nice day. And this is Phil Dixon signing off for now, and I'll see you real soon.